Welcome to another episode of the Art of Bird Photography. In this episode, I'm going to talk about how little changes can make a big difference in your photography, especially with birds when birds tend to move around a lot. Sometimes it's better to wait for a bird to move rather than take its picture right away. Or sometimes it's better to move yourself rather than take a picture right away. So I'm going to give you an example of each of those things in this episode. By the way, I want to say Happy New Year to everyone, and also please subscribe to this video if you haven't subscribed to my channel already. I'm almost at 3,000 subscribers, so it would be very cool to reach 3,000 subscribers. Okay, so let's get on to the video. Here we have a great egret, and you can see that the great egret is in a decent pose. It even has a catchlight in its eye, but the background is very bright, and the reason why that happened is because the great egret is in the shade, so the background is illuminated by the sun, but the egret is in the shade. It still looks not too dark, the egret, because the egret is white, of course, so it reflects more light. But nevertheless, you can see from this waveform that the tonal difference between the egret and the background is not that great. So let's see what happens when we wait for the egret to move to the sun. Look at the difference. The lighting didn't change much between these two scenes, but now we have the egret in the sun, and the grass is much darker because the egret is much brighter. You see in the waveform now that the difference between the egret and the background is huge. You get a much better separation between the background and the subject. So if we look at this side by side, you can see what a huge difference that makes. Just by waiting for the egret to move into the sun, we get such a big difference. Okay, that is about waiting for a bird to move, but sometimes it's better for you to move, and let's look at an example of that. Now we have a southern lapwing sitting on a field, and you can see that there's something very unsightly here. The shoreline, there's a lake here, the shoreline is sort of intersecting the lapwing's head. And in this case, I put my lens right on the ground. I like shooting from ground level, but in this case, it didn't result in something good. This horrible looking thing, it kind of makes the picture look, you have such nice organic curves here, and then you have a big, bold, straight line. That's not very cool. What I do in this case is try and find an angle in which this line isn't visible. And merely by moving my camera about half a meter higher, you still get a ground level effect. But now that line in the background is gone. So you see that it's important to check your background and make sure things that like lines don't appear. Lines are especially bad. You can see that this line really disrupts the overall mood of the photo. And by moving just a little bit up, I can completely get rid of that line because the shore is so far away. So that's it for this episode of The Art of Bird Photography. Small differences in your shooting position or in the subject position can make huge differences in your photo. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you again next time.